Okay, now that we've gone over quite a bit of composition knowledge and you've mastered a lot of those knowledge skills, it's time to go into composition skill where you are going to be making artwork on a piece of paper as opposed to just looking at artwork and talking about it. So the skill that we are starting with is thumbnail sketching. Okay, and the goals here are for you to be able to create successful compositions given a list of things that have to be included. It could be overwhelming to start from a white piece of paper. So your first practice will be, here's a list of things that have to be in there, make it work. And then a little bit later on, you'll be making compositions independently, coming up with your own like subject. So it can be, I would like to look at the skeleton and draw the skeleton. It could be completely imaginary. I have this character in my head that I'm going to draw. Okay. So let's remember the building blocks of composition. You need to make sure that you're organizing using a structure rule. That could be chosen based on its symbolism. You know, pyramid is stable, radial feels like forever. Extreme asymmetry in the rule of thirds can feel like off-centering if that's something you're going for. So the structure rules can be chosen, and you can also choose them because you think they look good. You need to have a main focal area. Odds are, if it's a good artwork, it's going to have multiple focal areas because you want to have interest throughout, but you need to have at least one focal area, and that needs to be placed correctly according to whatever structure you pick. And then we need to make sure that that visual weight is balanced. You're going to create interest again throughout the composition and create those leading lines that not only move the viewer's eye towards the focal area, but also throughout the artwork to keep the whole thing engaging and interesting. All right, so thumbnail sketches. The point of thumbnail sketch is to be accurate, but not at all detailed. So these are accurate for size and placement, but we're not worried about it looking like a specific boat. Right now it looks like a sailboat. We don't know the maker model. Okay, think stick figures, that kind of stuff. What is accurate is where the line is drawn for the horizon. Like that's going to be on the rule of thirds or center bias, where exactly the boat's going to go, because odds are the boat's going to be the focal area in this. You could change that with color, but right now just based on size and leading lines, the boats are focal area. Thinking about where that's going to be positioned. And proportion, so how big something is compared to something else. So placement and size and proportions should be accurate in a thumbnail sketch, even though they're really rough. Okay. Another thing that's happening here is the artist is thinking about what shape they want their composition to be in. Do they want it to be wide, landscape, tall, portrait, or they also are trying a square? What about a circle? What if it's the shape of a sailboat and you're drawing inside the sailboat? Like, so depending on the shape of your canvas, that can change your composition as well. Now these ones are all using that rectangle, but this time they're thinking about different ways to place focal areas, playing a little bit with like what could the focal area be. Right now they're also going through with value, and so that's something that we're going to do as well, is think about what's happening with light and dark in our artwork, not just shapes. So we're going to work black and white first, and we're just planning some things out. Now these are relatively well drawn, but they still are weak. This artist is definitely going to take this up a notch when it's time for them to do their final artwork. If you already have good realistic drawing skills, you can use them in a thumbnail sketch, but they should be quick. So there's, as far as what we're doing, placement and value, it being super well drawn doesn't help us get to that end. So you don't want these to take you more than probably 5 minutes a piece max. And honestly, that's a little bit much. You really could just do something like this, which probably took more like 30 seconds. All right, and these ones are probably more like 5-minute sketches. So if you can't do this much detail in 5 minutes, just don't. Okay, they're not meant to be detailed, but they are meant to be accurate. Placement, positioning, proportions are accurate. All right, so let's take a deeper dive here. This one is, these are my thumbnail sketches for the mastery check in this unit. You will be picking a thing and sketching it out using the different structures. So I'm thinking about a kayaking scene, and I'm thinking about it from each of the structure rules. And every time I pick a different structure rule, I think of the artwork in a different way, which is the beautiful thing about thumbnail sketches from different structures. So when I'm thinking about it center bias, I'm coming up with a different solution than when I'm thinking about it foreground, middle ground, background, remembering that foreground, middle ground, background always needs a buddy. In this case, I used pyramid, where most of my visual weight is going to be at the bottom of the composition. So that is for these artworks. I have them in those same positions there so you can see. And then here they are. This is actually our next unit when we're going to learn about color and then do color scheming. So, but these, you can see the transition of thumbnail sketch. Again, these took hardly any time. If any of them took more than 3 minutes, I would be surprised. These artworks obviously took a bit longer, but the thumbnail sketch should be quick and accurate. And you can see that I was pretty intentional with what I was doing. Proportion-wise, the proportions in the thumbnail sketches are more or less the proportions that are in the finished pieces, although some of the details in the finished pieces changed, which totally normal. That will probably happen for you because you haven't done all your thinking on the piece yet. You've just done your major placements, your proportions, your layout, your placement of your focal area, balance, etc.